This is an open letter to the workers of Ontario, past and present, and to their next of kin for those we've lost. I am looking to find workers in Ontario who were diagnosed with something called sarcoidosis. My purpose is to try and figure out if something that they were exposed to at work may have caused their sarcoidosis. My name is Janice Martel, and I am the founder of the McIntyre Powder Project. More than a decade ago, I created a voluntary registry to document health issues in gold and uranium miners who were historically exposed to aluminum inhalation at work, known as McIntyre powder. My dad was one of those miners. He had Parkinson's, and I wanted to know if he got Parkinson's because he was forced to inhale aluminum dust at work. At first, we tried making a workers' compensation claim to the Ontario Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, the WSIB. That claim was denied, appealed, and denied again. When I dug a little deeper into the WSIB, I realized that we would never win Dad's claim or get that answer about his Parkinson's because the WSIB has all the power. They make the rules, they control the statistics, they get to determine what does and does not constitute an occupational disease. They decide when there's enough evidence and what evidence gets counted. You cannot succeed in a system that is designed for the purpose of claims control, in a system that gives all of the power to the WSIB. So I went outside the system. I realized that the only way to find the answer about Dad's Parkinson's and whether it was linked to his McIntyre powder exposure was to get that answer for all of the miners. Name after name after name joined my McIntyre Powder Project Voluntary Registry, 716 of them to date. And we got that answer and many more answers. Yes, Parkinson's is linked to McIntyre powder exposure, and it is now a Schedule III occupational disease in Ontario. Yes, McIntyre powder causes lung disease, along with a cesspool of other toxic garbage that miners are overexposed to every workday. When you go outside of the Ontario WSIB system and you gather information about workers, what kinds of jobs that they did, what they are exposed to at work, and what health issues they end up with, you start to see patterns. You start to see increasing numbers of similar diseases, similar health complaints, similar work environments, similar on-the-job exposures. Those patterns can flag researchers where they should be looking. And that research can provide the answers that we need to support workers who make WSIB claims for those health issues. And now I've hit another wall with the WSIB and with the system that is supposed to help workers and widows. And that is the reason for this open letter. I am looking to the workers of Ontario to help me knock down that wall. One of the health issues that cropped up on my McIntyre Powder Project Voluntary Registry is sarcoidosis. I had never heard of sarcoidosis before. I can barely pronounce it. Sarcoidosis is a rare disease where immune system cells in your body clump together and form lumps called granulomas. It often affects the lungs and lymph nodes, but it can also affect other organs like your heart, eyes, and skin. One of the workplace exposures of concern for the development of sarcoidosis is silica. When you break apart rock in mining activities, you are exposed to extremely tiny particles of silica that are small enough to be inhaled into your lungs. But miners aren't the only workers who are exposed to silica. Tunnel workers, construction workers, those who make manufactured stone or use concrete, and shotcrete, all of those workers are exposed to silica. And silica is not the only exposure of concern for the development of sarcoidosis. A systematic review of scientific evidence published in 2023 found statistically significantly higher risk of sarcoidosis associated with exposures to silica, pesticides, and mold and mildew. So there are other workers in Ontario who are exposed to things on the job that can cause sarcoidosis. 15 Ontario mine workers on my McIntyre Powder Project Voluntary Registry report having a diagnosis of sarcoidosis. That's not nothing. That's telling us something. This is a rare disease, and I got 15 of my guys out of 716 reporting that they have sarcoidosis. That's telling us that we need to look at this. I am aware of 12 Ontario hard rock miners with biopsy-proven sarcoidosis where workers' compensation claims were made to the Ontario WSIB. All 12 claims were denied. The WSIB says that there is simply not enough evidence supporting a workplace link to sarcoidosis. And unfortunately, these workers and their widows just lost the legal support that they need to help them through the appeals process for their claims. So here we are, at the same crossroads that we were at 12 years ago with my dad's claim, staring at the same wall, stuck in the same system. I didn't walk away then, and I'm not going to walk away now. My guys need help, and there is nothing is going to happen unless we make it happen. They are up against a cruel and indifferent system. And I would be willing to bet that they are not the only workers in Ontario who got sarcoidosis from their jobs. WSIB says we need more evidence. Let's find it. Apparently, 12 workers working in the same industry, all developing the same rare disease, isn't enough evidence. So let's crack this open to all of the workers of Ontario and see what's out there. This is the official launch of the Sarcoidosis Voluntary Registry. It is open to any person who worked in Ontario, past or present, who was diagnosed with sarcoidosis after they started working in Ontario. The purpose of the Sarcoidosis Voluntary Registry is to document the number of Ontario workers who developed sarcoidosis, what kind of work they did, and what kind of things they were exposed to at work. And then see if we can learn anything from that. Maybe we'll start to see some trends, especially with common exposures, and we can push for research to give us better answers than what we have now. Those answers can help protect workers from getting sick and to fairly compensate those who are already sick. So if you worked in Ontario and you ended up with sarcoidosis, let's try to figure out if something that you were exposed to at work caused your sarcoidosis. If you are an affected worker, or if you are the next of kin of an affected worker, you are welcome to call me for more information or to add your name to the Sarcoidosis Voluntary Registry. The phone number to call is 705-822-3171. If you're calling outside of Canada, you will have to add a 1 at the beginning. So 1-705-822-3171. I do work full-time and I help a lot of people. So if you happen to reach my voicemail, please leave me a message and I will get back to you as soon as I'm able to. Thank you. That number again, 705-822-3171. Before I sign off, I have something to say to the decision makers at the WSIB, the big shots, the ones that make the policies, and to the legal representatives who walked away from my miners. Good luck explaining to your bosses how you could have held this down to 12 workers. Given the evidence of silica exposure and sarcoidosis risk, you could have granted these claims on the balance of probabilities at the WSIB operating level and buried them in your statistics, and no one would have been the wiser. You could have dealt with this fairly within the WSIB and avoided the independent scrutiny and case law of the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, who may not think that it is just random coincidence that 12 workers working in the same industry all ended up with the same rare disease. You could have made this go away. But instead, you lit a fire under someone with a track record who has no qualms with opening Pandora's box and seeing what there is to see. I will find these workers and I will help them, which is a hell of a lot more than what I can say for you. Good luck. You will need it.